Hi everyone, so I thought I'd do a quick tutorial of any ladies that have missed this little fountain. So we will be creating this today. I'm going to run through some bits and pieces that you can obviously use to build this, so let's get started. This is built inside a white cupcake case. You can obviously get these in different colours. I just felt like the white looks a lot better on the backdrop. This is to go into the wood boxes from the works. And this is the fairy garden, so obviously I'll run through those prints afterwards just in case you missed that as well. Next you're going to need a top and a bottom. These are the circles that I bought from Amazon. They come in a larger one, and then this size, and then a smaller one. I've already pre-drilled these holes. This was from something else I was going to create, however they do fit perfectly inside here as well. So if you have got this pack, you will need to drill your holes. I will go through the sizes that you can have for your holes as well. So depending on which size you've gone for, obviously there is a cardboard method as well if you don't have these discs. Again, I will run through that very soon. So my holes have been drilled to fit the dowel. So let me just show you that. Now, like I say, these don't come drilled, and if you're using your cardboard method as well, obviously you can, use whatever stick. So if you don't have these dowels, you can go to a lollipop stick. Just use this end as a guide if you have a Dremel. Let me just grab mine. This is just a battery operated one from Amazon, and you do get the attachments as well as part of the kit. So if you're unsure which size to drill, just pop this on top of your stick, and as you can see, this is going to be too small, so you'd have to go up a size to drill your hole. You can also use a bamboo skewer as well. This is just like a food skewer, and as you can see, this one would be absolutely fine if I was to use that stick. So first of all, just decide which stick you want and the size of your holes. Next, I'm just going to explain the cardboard method. Your cardboard will need to be quite thick. This is the only one I could grab. The more corrugated, the better really. It's just going to support it a little bit more and stop it sort of like flopping about. So taking some cardboard, if you don't have, more than one corrugated like me, you can obviously stack them on top, glue them with your glue gun just to make it a little bit thicker. You can then take the top part of your cupcake case, flip that around and draw a circle, cut that out, and then flip the other side and draw around the bottom part of your circle, and again cut that out. That is going to give you this size that you need with your cardboard. So obviously we paint everything. Just bearing in mind, you don't want to be, having your paint go a little bit darker, shall we say, on cardboard. So you are best layering this. I don't have any foam the right blue, but just to show you, even if you don't have a coloured foam, you can just go for white. And again, what you will need to do is cut out your circles so your cardboard sits on top of your circles. That way it's going to be a lot easier for you to paint rather than layering that together. So you might have done the cardboard method, layered it over with your foam, drill your holes, ready to pop this all together. You will need to plug in your glue gun, and what we're aiming for, keep your stick quite long. Obviously if it's a really long stick, just snip it off, otherwise it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to thread your top pieces on. And this stick here needs to be at the bottom of your cupcake case, because then once we glue that in and we slot that in, and then we're going to slide this over the top. As you can see, my stick is really long, so I'm just going to give that a snip just like this. Obviously it's still a little bit long, so just bear that in mind. So as long as you've measured it from the bottom, that's going to sit there, and then your next piece is going to go over the top, and you're going to go about 1.5 centimeters up with your next dowel. And then that will sit inside here. So like I say, keep your stick long because there is a love heart to go on the top as well. Mine is still a little bit long, but we can trim that off afterwards. So once you are happy and everything is sat to the bottom, you are then going to use your glue gun, pop that on this end here, run your glue gun right the way along this rim, push everything down and make sure everything is sat on the top. Again, this will work on your cardboard method. Do not worry about any glue overspill because it all gets covered with our paint and our drip. So let me just glue this in. So I've just used my glue gun, pushed everything down, and then just for this top piece here, just run your glue gun just around the top. Just to stop it coming down, especially if your hole that you've drilled is a little bit loose. It will just hold it into place. So you're going to need to let that dry until your glue goes white. And then you're going to paint the whole thing. This is the colour that I have gone for, which is the Artiste in Pale Ice Blue. This has got sort of like a shimmer to it. You can purchase this from a shop called Boys in the UK, or I know Amazon, they do these colours as well. So you will need to paint right the way around, also on your rim as well. This is where your foam will come in handy if you have used cardboard. Obviously that's too dark for my paint, because you're just going to lay it over the top and it's just going to keep your paint as vibrant as we can. So I'm going to give it all a good coat of paint, let it dry, and then I'll be back. So I've just painted all mine. I forgot to tell you about the top. This is the love heart to go on the top. So just before you sort of like start painting, you just need to trim your stick. Just make sure that your love heart sits on the back of your stick without any exposing at the top. So you can just trim that down, and then obviously you can paint the top. Again, it doesn't have to be perfectly square. So now we're going to add the glue. We do add this at the end. So with your glue gun, first we're going to layer all this with our glue gun on the top and the bottom. So this is just a clear standard stick. Excuse my glue gun. It's the best one I've had. I've had it a long time. So we're going to go all over. So we're just going to give it a squeeze and then just spread it out with the tip of your glue gun. Going to go all the way around the edge. Just lightly squeezing it. Pushing it in as you go. So we're just covering this bottom circle. You're then going to repeat the same process at the top. So again, just lightly squeeze it. Finger off the trigger when you've got enough. And then again, just start spreading that glue just around the edge. You can be as messy as you like, it is water, so. So your top and your bottom should now be covered in your glue. You just need to let this dry now until it goes a little bit white. You will see. So I'm going to leave it a good 5 minutes or so. And then we'll go on to the drips. For the drip, again, we're going to use our clear glue stick and we're going to aim to go along this part here. So you're going to run your glue gun along. Keep squeezing it, drop it down and then back up. So let me show you. So you're running it along this edge, squeeze and then back up. And then you're going to repeat the same process, starting again at the top, squeezing your glue gun, and then running it back up, going all the way along. So just do it in sections. You can go back over if you haven't got a drip where you want it, or your drip has gone a little bit too thin. Then we're going to let that dry, and then we're just going to add a little drip around the bottom. Just before we add the drip and it's dry, just go around. So can you see here, you can add another little bit if you want to. I quite like it as is, but I just want to show you can layer over the top. So if I wanted a little bit more here, again, you're just going to go over with your glue gun, drop it down, and then run it back up. So you can fill it in if there's any gaps. And then once you are happy and it's dry, we are then going to just do the same process just around the bottom. You don't have to do this bit if you don't want to. So I'm just going to drip it and just run just along that case. So I'm just lightly squeezing it. Turn it this way. Lightly squeeze, run along the top. Till you get to the end. And then again, we're going to let that dry. And then once it's dry, you can then use the same paint. Again, you don't have to do this method. And then you can just brush over. You might want to go all the way down your drip, just blends in that little edge there. And then any other sort of like areas that you need to go over, you can just go over with your paint. So I'm just going to run all the way along. Sorry, you keep going blurred. Just with a little paintbrush, just to finish that edge off. Catching any other bits where the paint has missed. And then without dipping my paintbrush back in, I'm just going to blend that colour down my drip. So start with it on your brush. Just go along the edge. Don't dip in anymore, and then just go it down. It'll naturally sort of like go opaque anyway because you're painting over a glue gun. So you need to now let all this dry, and then we're going to add the top. For your top piece, you need your little love heart and your butterfly. Just place a little bit of glue gun on the side of your heart, and then place your butterfly at an angle like this. And then you're going to flip this over. Obviously mine is still a little bit wet. Run your glue gun along the bottom, sorry, the middle of your love heart. Find your best side, you know, if it's gone lopsided for whatever reason. Find the side you want to use. I'm going to go this way on for my front. And then you're going to push that onto your stick. And then let that dry. And lastly, once it's dry, just flip it this way And then again, we're just going to use our glue gun. Take it from the top of your stick, run it up and down the back, and then bring it to the front just in case you've got a little gap that you need to fill in. And then again, just place your glue gun just behind. It will just blend it out to the top. Just going to tap my glue. And then once it's dry, you can then, go ahead with your paint if there's any bits, again, that you've missed. If you're wanting to add glitter, once everything is dry, you can use some clear PVA glue. Just run it where you want your glitter, sprinkle your glitter over the top, and again, just let that dry. So I've got a little bit here that I just want to add just to the front. Just under that love heart. And then we're going to let everything dry, and then I'll show you the finished result. So everything is now dry. If you do have any sort of like gaps along here, you can run your glue gun just to fill anything out. I think mine is all right, but I've maybe got a little tiny gap here. It just blends in the water a little bit better. So I'm just going to run my glue gun just along this bit here. Just to cover any gaps. And that is the finished result for the fountain. Obviously, if you've got any tiny little stringy bits, let everything dry first, and then you can go ahead with your scissors or your little tweezers and just pull off any little stringy bits that you don't want. So that is how you do the fountain. Next, I'm just going to show you quickly how to get your little fairies inside your glass bottles. So these are the two fairies. We've got this one and this one. We've already put her on live in a bottle already, so I'll show you the other version of the fairy. It works the same. You will also get two of your larger glass bottles. They will not fit in your smaller one, so I've added these as well for you. So you will need to flip your cork upside down until you get the smaller part. And then you will need your Dremel to drill a hole. If you don't have a Dremel, you can use the end of your scissors, or you can use a craft knife. Next, just taking a pen, you can measure it. I always eyeball everything. And place your dots in the centre of your cork. And then I'm going to go down to my smaller drill. And I'm just going to drill this hole. I'm not going to go all the way in. Just enough for my cocktail stick to sit inside. So if you're not using a Dremel, just do exactly the same method with whatever crafting tool you have. Next, you will need a cocktail stick. Taking your fairy, you need just to leave yourself a gap just to go inside your cork. So place her on the top. Doesn't have to be really long. Keep hold of her, flip her this way, and then we're just going to snip off the cocktail stick just so it's not exposed at the top. And then once you've done that, you will then need to just run your glue gun just along the back. And then pop your cocktail stick in the middle. Your little fairy should now sit in the middle of your cork. You won't need to glue this, not unless you've gone far too big with the hole. If you have, just take some stronger tacky glue just around the pointed part and then push that flat. So she is now sat on the bottom piece. Next, we're going to add the glitter to the bottle. It looks nice with or without, but obviously, you know, we love a little bit of glitter. So you will need some clear PVA glue. I always take off the top, as you all know. Go in with a paintbrush into your pot. And then you're going to pop your glue right the way on the top piece. Bring it down at the back, keeping it quite far up at the front. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to see your fairy. We do push this up anyway, so you don't have to be too precise with it. So we're just coating the inner part. And then taking your chosen glitter, this is the one that I have gone for, which is the Glitter Flakes from Boys. It's just white iridescent. Just pour some in a shot glass. And then we're going to pop this inside here. And then you're going to put your finger over the top, just give it a bit of a shake, just so it's coating all the glitter where your glue has gone, shall we say, and then tap that back out. Next you will need a stick, sort of like a small lollipop stick. Anything really, just to go on the inner part of your bottle, because your fairy is going to sit at the front. If you don't push your glitter up, what's going to happen is you're going to lose half your print. So taking a stick, we're now going to push up the glue at the front with the glitter, keeping the back part all covered, pulling off any glitter that you don't want. And then obviously you're going to let that dry. However, I do not have time to let it dry, so we're going to carry on. So your glitter will be dry. Mine is not. It doesn't really matter. It's only if you get any sort of like fallout. However, it's only going to go on the bottom of your cork. Just make sure as well that this part here where your cork is going to go is clear from glitter. Otherwise your cork might sit sort of like at an angle. So I'm just going to bend the fairy just a little bit. Manipulate the wings. And then from the front, going to squeeze your fairy. And then pop this up inside. So this one has obviously got the longer wings. So you can take a little stick, you know, if your wings have gone sort of like bent and you don't need them. Just take a cocktail stick, just slide it up inside the bottle. Pull your wings wherever you want them, and then push these in. But like I say, you will not need to glue this cork in. Once you've pushed this in, it will stay. So just make sure you are happy where you want to place her. And you're happy with the placement of the wings. And then you can push your cork up. Just twist it a little bit. So she is now inside the bottle. Just before I forget, if you've pushed it up and your cork is still really long but it's really tight, just grab a little craft knife and just slice down. You might want your cork longer, just to sort of like level them off really, because she is a little bit shorter than this one. So that's how you put your fairies in the bottles. So lastly, I'm just going to discuss which glue to use, where to put your prints, and then we will be done. So we are now going to cover the prints. These are all to go inside your wooden boxes from the works. Now, not all boxes are square. I have gone through loads of different boxes. Some are slightly smaller than others. So just before you sort of start gluing all your prints in, just make sure that your prints sit flush to the bottom and the top. So this one fits perfectly. This is exactly the same box. And this time, I can just grab it. There's a gap at the top. So you might find this with, you know, some boxes and not others. If that is the case, just measure them first. And then what you will need to do is just run some paint all the way around the edges. So you can go for pink, blue, brown. That way, once you get your print in the centre, you haven't got this gap at the top and you're not trying to, you know, get your paint covering your print. So that is the first tip with this. Just make sure, you know, you might not even need your paint. I wouldn't on this box, however, I would on this one. So there's no gap on this one, so I wouldn't need to paint it. However, there is a slight gap. So I would run round with some brown paint. But again, it's completely up to you. I think brown will blend in a lot more with it being sort of like the fairy garden. So that is the first thing I want to tell you about. Once you've measured your prints to your box, you need to attach your side prints first. So your side prints, you need the arch coming away. And then your other one, again, your arch facing away. So again, depending on how square your box is, this fits perfectly on mine. However, you might have sort of like a slight lip. If that is the case, what you will need to do is push this flat and then push this up and then just run your finger so you get a little lip at the back, which is going to cover with your next print. I'm not going to be building this or gluing these in. This is somebody's kit. However, you know, if you, hopefully this tutorial I will be eventually building it, but I don't know whether I'm going to film it. But, you know, if I can explain the best I can without building it, because I don't have a spare kit at the moment. So what you will need to do now is no tacky glue, it's just PVA glue. Now I have had a few requests regarding which glue to use on what, so I will be filming a tutorial which hopefully will go up after this video in the next few days, of what glue to use, what not to use on certain products. However, we are working on the wooden box, so we will be using clear PVA glue. Your tacky glue is not going to allow you to slide your print up and down. It's going to stick pretty quick, and if it's, you know, not in line, you're not going to be able to get it off. So stick with clear PVA glue. You can also use normal PVA glue, you know, like the white. It always says it dries clear. It doesn't always. So, you know, if you haven't got any just yet, I would certainly grab some clear. So again, you will screw off the top. Dip in with your paintbrush, a side at a time. So once you've measured it and you are happy and you've got the lip, you know, if it's turned out that way, put all your PVA glue on this side, placing this print over the top, making sure your arch is coming outwards, and then you can take a ruler or your finger. Make sure if you do use your finger, you've got no glue on it. Otherwise, you're going to spread off your print because it's only on cardstock. And then, obviously, attach this top and bottom and let that dry. You are then going to repeat the same process on the other side with your other arch pointing outwards. And then glue those sides together. Once these are in place, so I'm going to try my best to hold everything, you are then going to use your PVA glue all the way along the back. And then you're going to align this print to your back prints. Side prints. So let me just push this in. Hopefully it might grip. So if you've decided to paint the top and the bottom, obviously you need to do that beforehand. So this is what it's going to look like. Again, if you've got that sort of like lip on this side, this print is going to keep that all in place. So let me just hold that. Your other side is this print. Again, just measure it beforehand, just in case you need to run your paintbrush along. For this print, I would go for sort of like a dark mauve colour all the way around, just to blend out the top. And then again, PVA glue, I'll just move you over a little bit, all the way along the back. There's no side prints to put on for this. So again, if you are going for sort of like your mauvey colour, you can paint all the inner parts, or even green, all the way around, let it dry, and then obviously attach that. So you've attached your two sides first, and then your back, and then this side as well. And then there is two prints, one with the fairy, which is going to go at the front of your box. So again, paint all your box whatever colour you like. And then again, you can use your tacky glue to attach your print to the front. And then this is your back print without the fairy. Again, using your tacky glue. So that is the prints for these. Once you've painted all the bottom, you might want to put some, you know, fake grass in there, some moss. Just paint this bottom part green. This is where your fountain is going to sit. There's obviously other bits and pieces as well. Your bottles, you might want one either side, depending on what you're putting in. They also look nice in the top corners. Anything that you are putting on, just make sure it sits behind the lip. So you're not going to be able to get this bottle here because your doors are not going to shut. So just bear that in mind as well while you're measuring up. There is also some flowers which come on a bunch like this and a bunch like this. You might get the darker lavender with your flowers. They did run out when I went and grabbed some more. So if you've got the darker flowers or the pink, this is a standard. I managed to get some more of these. However, this colour will be this colour and not this dark, if that makes sense. So you will get two this colour and one more pink on this bunch. However, this is the darker purple. You can then snip off the ends of your buds using your glue gun. Once everything is in place and everything is printed, you can then start building up the inner part of your box by gluing, again, I'll just move you over, by gluing your flowers, pushing them into the corners, keeping it away from this lip. Taking your greenery, again, snipping it off. You might want some greenery going up here, either side. Again, That is completely up to you. So there is some keys. There's also a little butterfly as well. Whether you take this on the inner part or on the front part of your box, this is how they came. You might want to trim off your skewer. I have not glued these on here. But, you know, if you want it 3D from the front part of your box, or snip it off on the inner part. And then obviously you've got a couple of keys in there. You've also got, what else did I put in there? A couple of mushrooms, you know, bits and pieces like that. So as much as I haven't built the whole thing, because it's somebody else's kit, I really hope I've explained everything. Any problems, you can obviously message me. You know where I am. I really hoped it helped, and I cannot wait to see your creations. Goodbye, everybody.